Well, good afternoon. This is Houndog Steve wishing you a very pleasant afternoon, and I thought that as this is the May 24 long weekend, I would do a quick garden go round, and yeah, a few things have changed, but things basically it's getting the garden organised, ready. Some things have gone in, as you will see as when I do the walk around in the garden, but yeah, it's basically prepping up everything, getting things ready to go, so that when the warm weather strikes, and it looks like it is striking right now, we've got about 2 weeks of between 18 and 22 degrees, and we're getting up to, this is the important part, I always think, this is my big clue that we're getting close to planting, especially things like beans, soft things, that will be tomatoes, that kind of stuff. When you have 3 overnight temperatures of 10 degrees centigrade, that is about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, that is your indication that we're getting, the soil is getting warm enough, and it is time to put some of those softer and plants that are more prone to being hit by the frost. Anyway, we were in the greenhouse, so let's start there and take a little look around, and we'll see what's happening. Okie dokie, here we go. Okay, I got my lettuce transplanted and sorted out, and that is the romaine lettuce. And of course, as I say, you really want to give a good wide berth between plants, because these lettuce, as you know, if you've seen them in a supermarket, they get pretty big. And we're just now starting to see the red salad bowl coming up. This is a very, very nice lettuce. It is a nice firm ball. It's good for sandwiches, good for making salads, and it adds a nice little bit of colour. Yeah, the tomatoes will be coming shortly, probably this weekend. I may go out tomorrow and see if I can poke around and find some tomatoes. I've got a friend who's growing me some seedlings down in Peterborough, and they will be just about ready. Strawberries, very happy. And of course this skirt that you can see on the lower part, this part right here, I will start to gingerly open that as the weather warms up to allow full ventilation inside the greenhouse. Again, these are the beets just been transplanted, and they're plenty wide enough apart now so they can just grow as they will. And this area I just replanted. Again, it's always a good idea to have staggered plantings. So these basically are about 10 days apart, 12 days apart, and so I'll be getting leaves off these. The leaves, beet leaves, I don't know if you've ever had beet greens, but they are just delicious. But yeah, it's nice to space out, so you're getting things right the way through the season. And the grapevine is starting to break out all over the place. Now this is a real experiment for me. I have never been good at starting seeds in these little seed boxes. See, I've just had one bean, I think there's another bean trying to come up there. Now the sunflowers did okay. And I have some leeks coming through over there. But Swiss chard, just 1 or 2. The bok choy, it did very well. See, even the kale. I mean, I can plant kale in the soil, and I'll tell you, I will have just a complete row come up. Every single seed would germinate. Put them in one of these trays, and yeah. The 2 squashes there I had to replant. So I really want to get this down this year, because like I say, it's been a kind of a weakness of mine. I haven't been able to been, like 100% successful. When I see how greenhouses do it, of course they have everything going in these, starting in these little trays. Now one thing I did learn, at least I think I learnt over here, now these are marigolds, zabina, and lupins, and there's some onions here, and some Margarita Shasta daisies. Okay, so I didn't water these from the top. I put these seeds into the dry triple mix, and then because there's a gap at the end, I've just been adding water to that and letting the water come up from underneath. And I can't believe the success I've had. I've never managed to start marigolds outside in the garden, and here we have a whole ton of them coming up in my trays. So yes, this is something I want to master and perfect, because I think this is going to be so important, is to be able to start your own seeds indoors and get a jump on spring. And also, again, if I use this greenhouse, if the weather gets that bad, I want to be able to have successive plantings. And this is probably the only way I'm going to be able to adequately do that, is by starting things in seed trays for the next round of growth. And of course, we're just waiting for the peppers. That should all be happening this weekend, next weekend. Now, I walked into my woodshed a moment ago, and I found a robin sitting on a nest. Now, I didn't know she was in there, and you should have seen the look on her face when she saw me and I saw her. Anyway, so we're going to go in and take a little peek, and then we'll leave her alone. But I've had about 4 or 5 robins nesting on my property, probably for the last 2-3 years in a row, and I think these are the children, or maybe the children of the children. So we're going to be really quiet, but the look on this bird's face was just absolutely hilarious. Oh, she's off the nest. There it is, right over there. And I can't get over there, but we're going to move the camera so you can see. And I can see on the lens there's a couple of eggs. So we're going to leave. Miss Robin alone to her partner to raise their babies. Anyway, I like having robins on the property because, yes, they may get a few worms out of the garden, but I'll tell you, they eat an awful lot of grubs, especially like cutworms, things like that, boring weevils that you get in the garden. It's kind of an interesting memory to think of Mao Zedong ordered all the sparrows to be killed because the sparrows were eating the grain. And the following year there was a locust invasion, because what they didn't realize was that the sparrows ate all of the locust grubs and kept the pestilence down to an absolute minimum. So as I say, when you keep your garden in balance, you'll find that a lot of the pests that people are normally dealing with are all kept in check. We live in an ecosystem that works hand in hand, and I don't pretend to understand how it all works, all the bacteria in the soil and the viruses and everything else and the worms, and I mean, I got a sort of rough idea, but the birds, they all work together. And so best to just let nature do what nature does best, and you just help it along a little bit here and there, but don't interfere too much at all. It's absolutely amazing out here outside when I look around and I look up at those trees, and they're only just starting to unfurl. This is the May 2-4 long weekend, and it's a little early, May 17th, but still we're very late this year. So the big work that's been going on is just cleaning up these beds, getting everything ready to go for right now, the warm weather. It's 18 degrees today, and it looks like we're going to get about 2-3 weeks of steadily warmer weather. Anyway, these beds are planted in potatoes, and we're just waiting for them to come up. And I bought one of those flamethrowers to deal with my weeds, and it is working really well. So now the onions are coming along quite nicely. They've had their first good raking through and weeding out. I had to replant this side of peas. I don't know what happened to the other ones. Maybe we just had too long, cool and damp a spring. But anyways, they didn't take, so second set are in. And that is amazing, even with cold weather plants. You know, these are long, cool, wet springs. Yeah, the soil has to be a certain temperature. The garlic has taken hold. And what I did do is I transplanted all the stray peas from this side. I replanted these two. And I moved all the peas that are viable and coming up onto this side. Anyway, it's kind of nice to stagger your crops because it's not always so easy. When everything starts coming on strong, it's kind of hard to keep up with the consumption and you know, preparing of this stuff. So sometimes it is better to have things staggered and staged so they're coming on strong at different times. Now you can see my red potatoes are just really starting to pop through the soil now. These will be my first potatoes. I'll be digging these up in about a month's time. But I put a lot of potatoes in this year. I want to be able to have stuff in my cupboard. So these two beds are, of course, potatoes. Now this is the big work of the week. Or the day, in fact. You just have to put a little bit of felt on there, which wouldn't quite go around, because I put those boards in place after I built this bed. This is now my asparagus bed, and we've got some bee balm in that corner, and a different kind of daylily in that corner. I think that is a dark purple daylily, and this is a regular daylily. But that has really tidied that whole thing up. And you've got a nice wide walkway now. And the carrots are just starting. You can just see there if you look closely. There's a line of them. So what's this been about 10 days since the last video in the garden, and that's how long it takes for carrots to germinate, about 10 days. You've got to keep after them, and you've got to keep watering them. And same with parsnips. They're a very long germination period. But yeah, I'm very pleased that actually that makes that very nice to walk around on. And that blowtorch, I'll tell you, it just gets rid of all of the weeds. Look at that. Clean as a whistle. There's some more onions over here. This of course will be beans, and of course you saw the beans in the greenhouse. This is still yet to plant. It's all prepped up though. And this, I just planted this today. This is another bed of potatoes. This is yet to be planted. But I see there's all kinds of clover coming up in here. Herbs, that's oregano, sage. I've already had one set of tops off these nettles, absolutely delicious. The chives have settled into their new location and they're getting ready to flower out. Mint's coming on, and you can see the dill has just got the first set of fronds starting to come out, those feathery fronds that they have. And this is the cilantro. And as you can see, we are expecting some rain. I am quite pleased with that. That will help just settle all of this stuff down. The raspberry's really starting to leaf out now. And yeah, I had 1 or 2 comments on the last video about saying that I was going to buy a dog, and a lot of people commented and said that I should get a rescue dog, and that is what actually I intend to do. But because, you know, as you probably realize, when you go to a pound now, they're not just giving away those dogs or cats. I think it's $400, and that's why I said that I was going to be buying a dog. But it will be a rescue dog, or a rehome dog, an adoption of some kind. Anyway, that's about it. Not much going on, but this 2 weeks, you're going to see a dramatic difference in this garden in 2 weeks. So as I say, not really much going on this time of year, and of course it's one of those times, you know, where you just have to show patience, because by golly, I don't know how many times I've wanted to just pull on those seedlings a little bit and try to help them along, but yep, you just have to sit there and watch them until they take a good root, and as I say, this weather is really going to help them along. So as I say, not much to add right now. A couple of weeks time I'll do an update, and I think you're going to see a significant change. But one tip I'd like to share with you, you know, whilst I was doing the raised beds, I have a lot of little stones in there and bark and so on and so forth from the always sort of getting churned up from the Houndog culture, and so I was going to build myself a sieve. And so I'm in the garage, and what do you know, I come across the ideal sieve, and here it is, a milk carton. It's absolutely perfect. It's the perfect size for holding on to, and the hole size is just about the right size. If you wanted to, you could put a finer mesh in there in the bottom, but you can put as much or as little soil in there as you want, and you just give that a good shake, and you've got yourself a sieve. No work at all. Thousands of these. There are thousands of these lying around all over the place. Okay, so that's my tip of the week for your garden. Save yourself a whole bunch of work and get yourself, and you know what's nice about it is that it doesn't matter how big or small you are. This is a manageable size. It's just about the right width, about shoulder width, so you're not going to be struggling and straining, and like I say, you can put as much or as little as you can handle in the box. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe below. And in the meantime, this is Houndog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant May 24 long weekend, and we'll talk very, very shortly. See you now. Take care. Bye.